Welcome to This Is Now. Honolulu police are investigating an attempted murder overnight in Waianae.
Yeah, the latest crime comes as the Westside community is planning a rally against gun violence.
This was the scene near MacArthur Street and Mill Street, that's near Waianae Elementary School. Just before midnight, police say 2 shots were fired from inside a car at a 23-year-old woman. The car then accelerated and pinned the victim against a wall. The car then left the scene. HPD lists a 25-year-old woman and a 45-year-old man as suspects. The victim survived and was hospitalized in serious condition. EMS says she was treated for a leg injury. At last check, no arrests have been made, and happening today from 4 to 5 p.m., the Westside community is planning a rally to call for an end to gun violence in their community. The public is invited to Waianae Mall along Farrington Highway and asked to bring signs and flags as they hope to show unity against recent violent crimes.
Now to Maui, where police have named another fire victim. 80-year-old Michael Manen-Smith founded Island Sandals in Lahaina in 1978, specializing in handmade leather sandals. The death toll remains at 98 lives lost. And today, more Lahaina residents were allowed to go into the burn zone and see what's left of their properties after the fires nearly 2 months ago. Those with vehicle passes will be allowed access to Malo Street, Kalani Road, Kekai Road, Ainakea Road, and Malanai Street. They'll be allowed in until 3 p.m. with the same opening times set for tomorrow. During these first 2 days of access, support will be available to returning residents, including medical and mental health services, water, and washing stations. Starting Sunday, access will be available daily from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for area residents with an ID. The use of PPE in the burn area is optional but encouraged.
And this Sunday marks an important step in the recovery for West Maui, the restart of tourism. Governor Josh Green set the date as the state tries to lure people back to the Valley Isle. He points to the thousands of unemployed residents as a result of the fires and the need for them to get back on their feet. The move hasn't come without controversy. A petition signed by over 14,000 people calling for the delay of reopening was delivered at the Capitol earlier this week. It should be noted that other parts of Maui have been welcoming visitors throughout this entire time. But Governor Josh Green fears tourists will avoid traveling to Maui altogether if there is confusion about what's open. Of course, Lahaina will still be off limits to visitors. Signs will be going up at the Kahului International Airport reminding them to stay away from the area. Residents want to prevent scenes like this, a group of apparent tourists taking pictures in the burn zone just 2 days after the fire.
A slap in the face as the residents were looking over their burnt town, distraught, crying, and they were taking vacation pictures, so it was just, it was super hard to see.
If it turns into people stopping on the side of the road, taking pictures of possibly people going through their property, I think now they become the tourist attraction, and that's not what anybody wants.
We're also encouraging them to support local by shopping at local businesses and dining establishments, farmers markets, and just help our those that rely on the tourists for their livelihood to help them thrive again.
The mayor is also encouraging airlines to educate visitors as well. The area from Kapalua to Kahana will be the first to open to tourists starting Sunday. Hoping to prevent another catastrophic wildfire, the state is performing work to pull back vegetation in certain areas that may be hazardous in times of a brush fire. Our Daryl Huff takes us to West Oahu.
Keeley Drive here in Makaha has been designated as an evacuation route from the valley. That's why this work is going on to make sure that if a fire comes through, people can escape. Even though it's a private road, not a state highway, the Department of Transportation is paying a contractor $300,000 to clear a 30-foot fire break on either side of the road from Farrington Highway to the Makaha Towers at the request of the Honolulu Fire Department.
We're working with the county fire departments and to clear the areas they've identified as priority for vegetation management.
Another DOT firebreak protects the Kamakana Ali'i Shopping Center and nearby Verona Village in Ewa. It's a response to how downed poles and flaming overgrowth ignited buildings and blocked Lahaina evacuation routes. Pictures of highways on Maui from before the fire show the dry grass, which likely helped the fire jump the highways. It's one reason the state and Maui County are being sued.
As a large landowner, in the way that the state neglected to properly manage its lands. I mean, that's a pretty major issue with respect to the cause of the fire.
Transportation Director Ed Sniffen initiated the Firebreak Partnership and also directed his department to change its priorities to consider fire safety in planning roadside brush removal.
And so in most cases, when we clear our right-of-way, it's to preserve line of sight for vehicles. So this is typically not something we've done in the past.
Also unusual, the department's willingness to expand its program into areas not under its jurisdiction. So where's next? West Oahu community activist Ed Werner showed us overgrowth in the Nanakuli Homesteads subdivision. He's asked DOT for help.
I think it's amazing. It's great for the state to step up. I mean, that's just letting you know that, hey, Hawaiian Homes got to kick it up. City got to kick it up too. If we get tree agencies get involved, we can get more done.
And there is a lot to be done, with hundreds of miles of roads where tinder dry foliage surrounds power poles, like along Farrington Highway, just as it did along Honoapi'ilani Highway before the fire.
I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. And you know what? Our officials should be nervous too. Our government should be really nervous.
Right now, this work is being paid for out of state highway funds, but officials say they're not worried about where the money's coming from. They just want to get the work done. Reporting from Makaha, Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
The Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement says it is relocating its annual convention from Oahu to Maui. It's set for November 14th to the 17th at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center. CNHA says the venue change will help boost Maui's economy as more than 2,000 people are expected to attend.
So I think this is a chance for the community to come together in all different aspects. It's a chance for the economy to benefit from the marketplace that we're going to stand up, from the job fair that's going to be there as well, where people can plug in and meet employers.
Registration fees will be waived for wildfire survivors. You can find more details at hawaiinewsnow.com.
Well, Sunday marks 2 months since those deadly wildfires on Maui. And as the county begins to allow residents back to their property, there are still many questions that remain over what caused the fire. A new H&N digital documentary goes through the timeline of events that led up to the fires. Here's a preview of that.
Right here is disaster. Right here is where many people were lost.
It was 40-foot flames shooting off a front street. I've never seen anything like that.
You know, when the wind would lay down, it was just so hot. The ground was hot. Here it was just burning.
I actually texted my family on my phone, saying my goodbyes.
We're picking up ash. Some of it's crumbling.
Only worse than losing someone is not sure whether you've lost someone. Not sure whether my heart goes out to you, Jill and I. It aches for you.
We are hurting because so many have lost so much. We are hurting because we know we have changed forever. We're hurting because not only we've lost our historical places and our homes, but we've lost our loved ones.
You can watch the full documentary online at hawaiinewsnow.com.
After nearly 30 years, police have identified the 8th victim of Happy Face killer Keith Jesperson. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office in Florida says Suzanne Kellenberg was identified through genetic testing. Jesperson had confessed to her murder after his arrest in February of 1996, but didn't reveal her name, telling authorities he believed it was Susan or Suzette. Kellenberg was one of at least 8 women murdered by Jesperson across the U.S. and Canada. At the time, he was working as a long-haul trucker. Jesperson told investigators he picked Kellenberg up at a truck stop near Tampa and drove to a rest area in the Florida Panhandle. There, he strangled her and then dumped her body off Interstate 10. She was found by an inmate work crew in September of 1994. Jesperson was dubbed the happy-faced killer because of the smiley faces he drew on letters to the media detailing his crimes. He is currently serving 7 life sentences for the 8 murders. MGM Resorts expects that the September cyber attack against its casinos will have a $100 million negative impact on its third quarter earnings. The company, which refused to pay the hackers' ransom demand, made the prediction in a Thursday regulatory filing. The attack sent MGM's Vegas Strip operations into chaos and crippled its properties and technology around the nation. MGM said Thursday that guest-facing operations are now back to normal. Well, there are new developments to replace ousted House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Former President Donald Trump has now said who he is backing to be the next speaker. Naomi Ruckham has more.
The battle over the next Speaker of the House is ramping up, with former President Donald Trump weighing in overnight. On Trump's Truth Social, the former president backed outspoken conservative Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, saying Jordan would, quote, be a great Speaker of the House and has my complete and total endorsement. The post comes after Trump, who is also running for another term as president, said he might agree to replace McCarthy for a short time if Republicans could not come to agreement on a new speaker. Since McCarthy's ouster, 2 frontrunners have emerged as possible replacements. Jordan, a longtime Trump ally, along with Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who is currently undergoing cancer treatment.
This is really important that we get this right.
My politics are entirely consistent with where conservatives and Republicans are across the country.
Democrats are expected to vote unanimously against any Republican hopeful, so the next speaker will have to win over a divided party with one of the most narrow majorities ever in the House of Representatives. Republicans have called for a closed-door conference on candidates next week. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
Continuing our series on fentanyl in Hawaii, we're about to show you what happens to the drugs that are seized here in Hawaii by the DEA. H&N Investigates got an exclusive inside tour of the lab where they end up on the U.S. West Coast. In her continuing series, Lynn Kawano explains why counterfeits are especially dangerous.
That's the injection. They're determining the purity of fentanyl for this particular one.
Okay, so tell me what this is.
Okay, so this is a recent seizure of methamphetamine hydrochloride received from Honolulu.
The Drug Enforcement Administration Southern California lab examines all narcotics seized by the agency in the islands. This recent seizure, part of nearly 50 pounds of meth, was intercepted in a package mailed to Oahu. Senior forensic chemist Christine Mateo is analyzing samples from the recovery.
One of the first tests that we do is a color test. It turns from orange to brown, which is consistent with methamphetamine.
Marijuana and meth are still the drugs intercepted the most in Hawaii, but fentanyl seizures have spiked at an alarming rate. Much of the fentanyl recovered nationwide is found in fake prescription pills.
These are what we see as M30s, so there's M on one side and 30 and half scored on the other.
So that's the standard marking that we would see on Oxy.
Yes.
Mateo's tests show these pills are not oxycodone, but actually contain fentanyl.
There were 39 of these little bundles and then 8 of these big packages, approximately 200,000 tablets.
Each tablet can be considered deadly. Also in the lab being analyzed on this day, nearly 10,000 rainbow fentanyl pills seized at the U.S.-Mexico border before it could get to our neighborhoods. High-tech equipment can determine what ingredients are actually in the pills and the concentration. Just 2 milligrams of fentanyl is considered lethal. This is what 2 milligrams of powder looks like. Mateo has found up to 6 milligrams, 3 times the lethal dose in 1 pill.
That's what really victimizes a lot of our young people who maybe because of lack of awareness, they don't know that these are fake pills.
You have to understand, if you're buying a pill that's not from a licensed pharmacy,
you are probably buying fentanyl. We're not worried about people that are getting a legitimate prescription from a physician and filling it through a legitimate online pharmacy. That's not our concern here. Our concern is the person that's not doing it that route.
College students trying to stay up to study have been victimized buying pills they thought were stimulants like Adderall, but actually contained fentanyl. Young adults often buy the pills through social media ads. Payment is done through apps, and the illegal pills are sent directly to their home. It's why law enforcement say so many are falling victim. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for that report. Let's give you a live look outside beautiful Honolulu. It is currently 85 degrees, but with the humidity, it feels a little bit warmer at 88. What's in store for your island weather? We'll have your forecast just after this break.
How's it on this Friday? Our weather is looking really nice going into the weekend. There is no cyclonic activity in the Central Pacific, still very quiet. However, in the East Pacific, we're watching Tropical Storm Lydia, more than 2,500 miles out from us. It's going to start backing up. It's going to impact mainland Mexico, not likely impacting us at all. And as far as our winds, they'll be slow in coming back. We're expecting a light trade wind breeze today, but because the winds will run a little slow today, we'll get that typical light wind weather pattern. Fairly sunny, fairly dry for much of the day. Clouds in the afternoon will build and will likely spawn a few pop-up showers, but those showers will not be widespread. High temperature today running to about 87. And as far as the surf, that great swell that hit the country yesterday is on the way down. It's going to be falling pretty quickly, so get it while it's still there because conditions are very good. And maybe tonight through tomorrow, look for a pulse to start moving into the South Shore. Also, though, tomorrow, box jellyfish will be swimming in to South Shore spots. They might even be here today, so heads up, check with lifeguards just to be safe. They should be gone by Tuesday or Wednesday. And as far as the weather, it's not going to change very much, although we are expecting stronger trade winds to move in tomorrow. And when those trade winds pick up, we'll likely see a few more windward and Malka showers. However, we're not expecting a whole lot of rain for the next several days.
In the latest jobs report, the Labor Department says the U.S. added nearly double the new hires expected in September, marking the 33rd month of growth for the labor market. Lara Aguirre has more.
This morning we learned the economy created 336,000 jobs in September alone. That means since I've taken office, we've created 13.9 million new jobs.
President Joe Biden taking a victory lap Friday over September's turbocharged jobs report.
It's Bidenomics. We're growing the economy from the middle out, the bottom up, not the top down.
September's gains reflect the largest monthly jump since January, and the unemployment rate holding steady from August at 3.8%. Hospitality and leisure led the hiring surge, like restaurants, hotels, and travel, areas that previously struggled to recover after the pandemic, followed by government and healthcare. Hourly average wages were just shy of estimates, but still trending up.
We still have more work to do on inflation, but also some growth in wages, especially among the lowest paid workers.
The strong jobs report could be too much of a good thing, points out some federal officials, noting that the central bank could keep hiking interest rates to fight inflation if it feels the economy is strong enough to handle them. Still, for most Americans, more jobs and rising wages are a win-win.
It means there are more opportunities for people sharing their part of the American dream.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
While the jobs report was promising, workers in some industries aren't so happy. The United Auto Workers Union remains on the picket line. It's one of 3 major strikes involving thousands of workers across several states. Bradley Blackburn is in New York with the very latest.
As the strike against the big 3 automakers entered its 4th week, the president of the United Auto Workers Union announced what he called a major breakthrough with General Motors.
GM has now agreed in writing to place their electric battery manufacturing under our National Master Agreement.
The breakthrough happened as the union was preparing to expand its walkout against GM.
I wish I were here to announce a tentative agreement at one or more of these companies, but I do want to be really clear. We are making significant progress.
Members have been picketing in targeted strikes across 20 states as the union seeks a 36% wage increase and other benefits. More than 75,000 healthcare workers entered the final day of their strike against Kaiser Permanente without a deal. Nurses, technicians, and others walked off the job for 3 days to protest staff shortages and demand higher pay.
I think that we have made a very big impact, and we'll come out here again if we have to.
And renewed negotiations between the Actors Union and Hollywood Studios resumed Friday and are expected to continue Monday. Members of SAG-AFTRA have been on strike since July.
The spirit and the energy and the determination to see this through and across the finish line is fierce.
Key sticking points include pay issues in the streaming era and the use of artificial intelligence. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Let's go ahead and give you some good news now. As fall approaches, we're getting in the mood for the festive season, and one of the largest and most intricate corn mazes in the entire country is located in Minnesota.
Yeah, John Lauritsen takes us to Stony Brook Farms to show us how the maze gets even more amazing every year.
Definitely small town USA. Everybody knows everybody.
That's because many of the families that live in Foley have been here for generations. They are as rooted as the crops they grow.
We start in the spring with asparagus. We do sugar snap peas, green beans, broccoli. We roll into sweet corn, which is our biggest crop.
Brad Shimoleski and his family run Stony Brook Farms. They grow vegetables for grocery stores, but not all of their corn ends up in a supermarket.
And then you decide somewhere along the line, we should make a maze.
Our first year we started, it was just basically a pumpkin with kind of a maze, in there.
From a simple pumpkin in 2016 to one of the largest mazes in the world. Last year, Stony Brook put together an extremely detailed maze full of scary movie characters, and they did it all in 110 acres of corn, totaling 15 miles of pathways.
We had Jason Voorhees, we had Freddy Krueger, Pennywise the Clown from It, we had Chucky, cool different stuff like that.
They also saw their number of visitors jump 500% from the year before, with people coming from around the world. This year, there's a Jurassic Park theme.
This is actually in the tractor cab with us when we're planting.
After he gets an idea, Brad works with a company called Maze Play to design his autumn adventure. Then he uses the best of farm technology to get the labyrinth just right.
If you actually zoom in on it a little bit, you can actually see there's lines, and each one of those little lines there is a planter pass.
Going a steady 3 miles an hour. The program tells his tractor where to drop seeds in the spring, so he gets this in the fall. This year, instead of strolling through Freddy Krueger's head, visitors can walk through the neck of a brontosaurus.
So the neck is that way?
Yeah, neck is that way, and the T-Rex and the Stegosaurus are over that way.
They also made this maze cheat-proof by planting the corn stalks tightly together and in 2 different directions, so you can't bust right through it.
The record for getting through the most difficult maze last year was 40 minutes, but some people can spend hours trying to find their way.
You've never gotten lost?
Haven't gotten lost.
Not yet, anyway.
You know, if you do, you just keep on going in one direction and you'll hit a road eventually.
But for most visitors, it's less about the end result and more about the journey.
It's a ton of fun. We're blown away by the people who just say, thank you for doing this. Really, next year we don't know what we're going to do, so if you have any suggestions, let me know.
In Foley, John Lordson, WCCO News.
Ashley, what do you think? How would you fare in a corn maze?
40 minutes? That's a long time.
Well, with a maze that size, I mean, it would take some time. It would take me definitely longer to get through that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great weekend. Aloha.